Now again, welcome to you, Ron. Thank you for being here. Canada basketball has a special relationship to German basketball in the very moment. We have head coaches from Canada for both of our national teams. We are looking at what is going on in youth sport in Canada for a longer time. I think most of you have heard about the long-term athlete development, the LTAD, which focuses on starting with fun and then going up to the lifelong activity or to the elite performance sports. This is something that we want to look at a bit more detailed, and what you renewed, maybe you made new this year, last year, and how you apply it for mini basketball and what the structure of mini basketball is in the federation. So enjoy it and feel free to ask him. He will be with us all night.
One cup when you hear this. 2 cup. 1 cup. Okay. How's everyone doing? Oh, whoa. Hold on a second. 30 seconds into this presentation, I'm going to give you my first teaching point. In Canada, we have something called, you have to bring the ice. I-C-E, ice. Okay? I stands for intensity. C stands for concentration. E stands for energy. Regardless if you're a coach or an athlete, or a young kid, okay? Every time we step on in any environment, bring the ice, okay? High energy, lots of intensity, okay? And strong concentration, okay? So that's what we expect from you guys, okay? That's my first teaching point. How's everyone doing today? We're going to work on that. That's 5. We went from a 1 to a 5, so we're going to progress and see how we do. Okay? Hello everyone, my name is Ron. I am the head of domestic and fraternity development for Canada basketball. I'll start with some personal. I am a father of 2 young kids. I have a 3-year-old and 5-year-old that keeps me busy and insane most of the time. They run around the house like crazy. So I have been involved in the world of basketball. I want to say roughly around, well, if you count coaching and everything else, I'd probably say 30 years. Just because I started coaching youth basketball when I was 12 years old. And so I've kind of been involved with coaching, getting involved with officiating. I got involved with just organizing basketball tournaments at the community level when I was a young kid. Then as I progressed through university, I got more interested in terms of the administration aspect of it. My first 6 years of my career, I started with the Toronto Raptors. I was in charge of the youth development for the Toronto Raptors. I was in charge of the youth programming that was around the Toronto and Greater Toronto area. And then in the last 17 years, I have been now with Canada Basketball, our federation. Primarily in the beginning part, I was focusing purely on youth basketball. So mini basketball, we call it youth basketball. That was my big role, is to how do we grow that base? Not about the high performance, but how do we grow that base? And then as my role continues to progress, as you are in any federation, they just keep piling more work on you. They just say, hey, do this, and do that, and do this. So now I'm also involved with coach education, officials development, domestic competitions, so any of our national championships. And then in the last 2 years, I have now been also taking on the role of 3x3 high performance director, which means I also oversee the national team program for 3x3 as well for both men's and women. So been involved with basketball for a long time. I probably will say this. I was a lot more active in my earlier days on the court, which kept me relevant, kept me, doing more stuff with the kids, because at the end of the day, I can talk about all the stuff, but until you're on the court, until you're actually doing the stuff, you get to learn how to talk to kids and how to understand kids and all that stuff. But I think in the last 8 years or so, I'm now more in the office. This is where I'm now starting to get a little bit fatter, but it's a part of it. I'm now more in the administration side of things, but I get a chance to really do a lot of this stuff to now excite and grow to develop the coaches in my country, Canada, to let them understand how Minibasketball works, how youth development works. And this opportunity is an honor to be here, because this is not just me talking about this. I'm learning so much just in the last day or so, just having conversation at dinner time, learning so much of what the German Federation is doing, and it's eye-opening. I must applaud the German Federation for all the stuff that you guys are doing, because I guarantee you, across all the different federations that are here, it's all about stealing ideas. It's all about best practices. It's all about, hey, what do you do over there? Oh, cool, I'm going to take that idea. And that's how we all get better. That's how youth basketball gets better as a whole. And I think that's really important. Okay? So that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about this. Why are we here? You guys saw your agenda. You know I'm here. Okay, there's Canada basketball. Why are we here? Always got to know about the why. Why are we here? Why are you here today? What do you want to hear from me? What do you hope to learn? Anybody? Now you all get quiet, huh? Should we serve some beer to kind of get the food? That part was so quick I responded to that. Why are we here though? Like, give me some things that you are excited to hear, some things that you're kind of hoping to learn, or kind of just, you know, a general idea, but why are you here?
It's just this overall, this happening, right? There's a lot of people that bring forward a lot of ideas which they're very passionate about, and I really like hearing those ideas, how people try to implement those ideas, and really hear what gets people going. That's fun.
Love it, love it. So you're hoping to learn from others. You're trying to get the different concepts and ideas in your head and learn from others. Who else? So one more to me.
Inspiration.
Inspiration. Okay. It's we talk about motivation. You know, coaches have motivation as well. How do you get inspired? How do you continuously get excited to be doing this stuff day in and day out? Basketball season is long. You know, my season when I coach youth basketball goes from September all the way till end of March. I say by mid-January, I'm going to the gym. I'm like, oh, this is tiring. Every single week I'm working with the same kid, but you know, how do you get excited? How do you get inspired? Right? Learning different ideas. I think those are all kind of, you know, really exciting concepts. Before I get started, can everybody hear me okay back there? Good? If I'm speaking too fast or my voice starts to drop, let me know. I will slow it down or I'll speak up. I was telling Tim, I'm like, every time I go in a long flight, the first day after I get off the plane, my voice starts to go a little bit. But if you can hear me for now, good. But just put up your hand or just put up, you know, let me know if you ever want me to kind of speak louder and all that. Okay? The other thing is, this is not a presentation. This is a conversation. Okay? What I'm really hoping to do is have back and forth. I'm going to ask questions, okay? And I also expect you guys to ask questions. Okay? Ask questions all throughout. Just put up your hand. No, or just yell it out, because coaches learning is back and forth. Okay? I can tell you some of this stuff when we do all that type of stuff, but I want you to poke. I want you to reflect and think about, how do I make this applicable in my environment? Okay? And if you have questions, like, okay, in my context, I have this. If you have questions that you're not sure how some of this stuff might apply, ask the question. Okay? Because what you might be thinking might be what another person is thinking. Okay? So let's make sure that this is a open environment, back and forth, lots of conversation, and that's what I'm really hoping for. Okay? Sounds good?
Yes.
Ready to start?
Yes.
Ready to start?
Yes.
Okay. Tell you what, before I even get of the 16 students from this year's program, I want you to stand up. Here are my instructions. The first activity of the day, without talking, without speaking, without making any noise. You are to organize yourself from youngest to oldest, by year, by month, by day. Okay, we go straight line, youngest in the front, in the back, no problem. That was pretty quick. Are we good? You need another 30 seconds? Okay. Do you want to go across? Okay, just a date. Month and date.
1st of November 2003. June 24, 2002.
26 March 2000.
February 29th. 14th December 1999.
1st of May 98.
29th October, 16th December 1995.
July 88.
April 84,
October 3rd, 1981.
19 November 1983.
One was forgotten.
September 83.
June 79. 3rd April 76.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so you turn to your seat. Hey, look at one drop. Good job. Good job. Awesome. Just want to let you know that exercise right there has nothing to do with my presentation. And no relevance. But what I wanted you to do is get engaged in a quick activity just to get people perked up. Okay? So, coaching sometimes is getting that engagement, right? How often do you start your coaching session and kids are kind of like, oh, I don't know, what am I doing today? But you can do quick things to get engagement. Okay, and again, I just want to start with, I'm going to throw different things throughout the session, okay, as I go along, but again, these are things that, as coaches, understanding, elevating the idea of how do I engage my athletes? Those are important things, okay? So, let me get started here, talk about Canada basketball. So I've been asked to come and talk about what Canada is doing around youth basketball. I've been asked to talk about what do we do from a coaching standpoint? What do we do from a rule standpoint? What are we doing from a philosophy standpoint, history, and all of that stuff? I'll be honest with you, Martin. I applaud you for the great job for just now. I know you didn't understand most of it, but I got the idea. But a lot of this stuff is not new. I've seen presentations now with Germany, I've seen presentation with Belgium, I've seen other presentation with different countries, other federations have done. The general concept, it's pretty similar, okay? So I hope this is not gonna be like, oh my God, I want this, I know all of this stuff already. Even if you get 10%, that's okay, okay? But one thing you'll need to understand is it all starts with the concept. When you hear more and more about it, it now becomes ingraining. The more you hear about this stuff, the more it's going to become part of your philosophy. And that's really what, the ideology of like transferring knowledge is all about. Just like, how do you take this information and make it now part of what you do? Because some of this stuff, my first couple times kind of getting through it, okay, like even the long-term athlete development, when I first started off at Canada Basketball, learning all this stuff, I'm like, okay, but as you live and breathe it, as you are hearing it more and more from different people, speaking the same language, speaking the same concept, now that becomes your philosophy. And hopefully, based off of some of what we're doing at a Canada level, combined with what all the teachings that have been done so far with the German Federation, this is now becoming something that you can take back into your region, your community, and really grow it. Spread the word, make it like a movement, right? And that's really what we're trying to do. Okay. Very quickly, this is a quick snapshot of Canada. Okay, where we are. Men's program, we're 6th in the world. Boys program, 9th in the world. 3x3 men's 14th. Women's program 5th. Girls 3rd. 3x3 5th. Okay. Germany is the king of basketball right now. Clap your hand. Congratulations on winning the World Cup. It's amazing, right? We have some similarities because both the German program and the Canadian program are on the rise, right? We are at a point where we both beat the US at the World Cup. We got beat them in the quarters. We beat them in the third place game, but it's a statement of we're doing something right. That means somewhere along the way, because this never happened before, well, at least for Canada. I don't know the history of this, but like our basketball program has always been around 20th, 25th. This is the highest we've ever placed on the men's side, 6th, right? A woman's been hovering around, that 4 to 7 spot for like the last 2 spots now. But all this does not come just suddenly. There's got to be something that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago to get to this point, right? So I didn't put this up to brag about what Canada is doing. I don't want to put this up because something must have happened to got us to now this stage where Canadian basketball are calling it the golden era of basketball for us. Put down here, since 2013, 26 athletes have been drafted into the NBA. 16 of them are first round. We also have 11 athletes drafted in the WNBA. I know NBA, I don't know how popular it is here, but for our context in Canada, because of our proximity to USA, it's a big deal, right? More and more Canadians are being drafted into the NBA at the highest level for us, and then same thing for the WNBA. But what led to that? Okay? In 2008, about 15, I can't do my math right now, we came out with this. This is the first printed version of the Canada Basketball Long-Term Athlete Development Model. Okay? Around 2005, 2006, our Canadian government came up with this new sport strategy. And we've designed a long-term athlete development for sport. And at that time, it was brand spanking new. The whole concept, idea, all of this stuff was just like, whoa, this is all new. How are we going to push this? How are we going to make sure every club, every state association understands what this all means? So we took it, and Canada Basketball turned it into a basketball version of the long-term athlete development model, and we basically went across the country. And we basically start putting this information into everybody's head. What is long-term athlete development model? Okay? I think some of you have heard, put up your hand, you've heard of long-term athlete development model. Anybody have any idea what it is, what it means? Liz, you probably have, in Luxembourg, you probably have the most sense of it.
So basically, it's the idea that based on your age level, how should we approach kids, adults, to stay active in sports throughout their whole life in order to make them passionate about whatever sports they do until the rest of their life.
Okay, the key concept is athlete-centered. The whole idea is we're gonna promote the athlete. It's not about winning, losing. It's not about coaching. It's athlete-centered. We care about the people. Okay, I think that was part of the presentation. We care about the people first, right? And it's more relevant even in this area, because sometimes when we talk about mini basketball going into youth basketball, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going fun and then straight to competition. Even at that age group, 14, 15, there's going to be kids that want to be recreational. They might not want to compete all the time, they might just want to have fun. So how do you cater to that as well? Okay, so I'll speak to some of this very quickly, just I don't want to get too scientific, but I do want to present a picture of what our long-term athlete development model looks like. So we have stages, okay? Starting at the bottom, active start, 0 to 5 years old. Hey, let them develop their movement skills, right? Let them develop how to walk, how to run, how to jump. Then we get into the fundamental. This is what we call the community age group, 6 to 9 years old, and then leading into the learn to train, the 10 to 12. So right here, fundamentals and learn to train. That's the focus of our conversation today, because that makes up the physical literacy stage of athletes development. Okay? We call it physical literacy because, well, it's technically literacy. How do kids learn to read? What do they start with? Start with ABC, learning the alphabet. What's after that? Syllables. Okay? After syllables, it goes into word. Word turns into sentences. Sentences turns into paragraphs, right? And then so on and so on. So that's the literacy of understanding how to read. Well, in this case, we're talking about physical literacy. If you can't run, what happens? Can't play sport. Last sport you cannot play. If you can't jump, what happens? What sport can you not play if you cannot jump? Basketball. Long jump. Any track and field, volleyball probably, right? So it's the foundation of how you build an athlete, right? And we took so much emphasis on this part when we designed all of this stuff, because without understanding that, what do coaches mostly do? You go to practice, I want to do basketball. Here's how you do a chest pass, 2 foot, okay, hands together. Right? Here's how you shoot, okay, here we go. 2 feet, eyes looking at the rim, okay? You go straight to basketball. But when we talk about this, at 6 to 9 age group, I spend at least 50% of my gym time on running, jumping, doing different movement skills, right? Because for me, if you don't build that foundation, you cannot excel the next level. Okay, so we focus on this physical literacy aspect. Okay, from there, once you get to a certain age, after 12 years old, you have a choice, right? Some will move towards the performance pathway. Okay, some will stay competitive and kind of be on the outside, and then some might actually just, hey, you know what? I just want to have fun. I want to be active for life, and that's okay. Okay, the idea is how do you help an athlete continue to progress and understand, hey, you know what? There are different options. It doesn't necessarily be linear. It's not always just straight. There's elements of like how you can grow an athlete, get them interested, because again, to Liz's point, it's getting them to be active for like sport. Okay? And so when we push all of this stuff out, and again, this is actually the digital version of this is on our basketball.ca website, available to any coaches. So feel free to go on our website and download it. But what it does is it breaks it down. At this age group, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And it goes into, from a physical development standpoint, to a sport development standpoint, even to a mental development standpoint. Get into learn to train. What's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Physical, basketball skill-wise, mental. And so when coaches start learning the concept of, okay, just because I played at a high school level or college, university level, and I was a good athlete, and oh, my coach used to make me do this, let me try this with my 6-year-old or my 8-year-old. Doesn't necessarily work, because everything needs to be age and stage appropriate based on the characteristics and the capacity of the athletes. And when this information was first pushed out, again, lukewarm, okay, but I would say probably within the last 10 years, it's fully ingrained. Everything we do, we push this. Every education material, every coaching course, every clinic that we put out there, it starts with understanding this concept. Okay? Everything is about how we approach coaching using age and stage appropriate and making it fun and exciting for them at a young age. And then as they progress through the pathway, where the elements are low and kind of build on the success of the skills, the mental, and all those pieces in terms of capacity standpoint. Okay, does that make sense? I lose my Canadian coaches sometimes with this stuff, but at the end of the day, I think if you get the general concept, this is what we're really pushing for. So again, at the physical literacy level, okay, which is that fundamental 6 to 9 years old, and the learn to train at that 9 to 12 years old, these two pieces are the most important. Okay? Developing your movement skills. Okay, so right now, agility, balance, coordination. We put wheeling here because at that age group, we actually have inclusive environments where wheelchair athletes participate with our able-bodied athletes as well. Running, jumping, throwing, catching, kicking, ball handling, passing, shooting, layup. Okay, so that's the foundation. Without this, you can't really be good at this. Okay? And then without this, then you can't really be good at the actual game part of basketball. Okay, so the emphasis is around how do you make sure that you are integrating the development of all this. Our population in Canada is 35 million. The USA population is 350 million. We are 1/10 of USA population. In the US, they don't have any of this stuff. They just play. Okay? But they have this approach, is what I call, you guys know what pierogies? Pierogies, the Polish dumpling. Okay? What happens with pierogies when it's cooked? What happens with pierogies when they're cooked? When you're cooking it, once they're cooked, they rise to the top. They rise to the top, right? When you're boiling in hot water, they rise to the top. Okay? So we, in the States, in the US, we call it, they use the pierogies approach. Because whoever matures fastest, whoever develops the skills fastest, I'll take that athlete, and that's going to be, my star. But with a smaller population, we have to focus on development. We have to focus on understanding how to build an athlete as opposed to just picking off the top. Okay, so when we talk about athlete development, it starts with all of this stuff. We try to educate our coaches to not focus so much on basketball because everyone wants to know the how, what to do, but how do you build this base? Because we all know if you can do this well, the next levels, there's a limit. Sky's the limit, right? At the end of the day, I teach basketball, coach courses, but I don't talk about building basketball athletes. I talk about building athletes. It's not about basketball players. I'm talking about building athletes first. That's first and foremost for us, right? Because if you become good athletes, if you can do all of these things well, you're more than likely to succeed and continue to progress through the pathway, right? And so again, the whole emphasis has been so focused on expanding on all of this stuff that it's now, again, 10, 15 years later, continuously being ingrained to coaches and kind of keep moving. That's kind of how I like to rationalize our crop of young athletes have now matured to now at the level where internationally we're doing well because we've been building them using this method at the ground level from 15 to 20 years ago. Okay? Any questions on this stuff? So far, so good?
I have a question on your the method to use for like sprint training and jump training. Like, how do you incorporate that with like a focus in games? How does that look?
It's embedded into the games, right? So again, we don't just go to an athlete and say, okay, you're gonna do 15 power jumps. No, you know that's the adult model of coaching, right? Where you do repetitions. For us, for young kids, mini basketball level, we use what we call games approach. I'll go through that later part of the conversation. But what we do is we use games to let them play. But the skills is embedded into the games, so they don't even know they're being taught something. They don't even know that they are doing certain skills, but they're just playing a game. But they're learning by doing. They're learning through the games approach, and they're actually developing skills that way. Okay, so that's kind of what we have always done. It's just like, okay, instead of talk about running, right? Okay, well, it's not fun to just tell a kid to run up and down the court. Well, what are some modifications? Any ideas? It could be create a game. I know we have a game called Run Rabbit Run. Right, and you have two athletes that just chasing the other athlete, you try to tag them, but you're utilizing the games approach. Tag, you get a point. You can now add in dribble. You can now, add in defense. So again, using games as a way to really get kids to learn by doing, as opposed to just straight up, give me 10 jumps. Okay, go run it up and down the court 5 times. Okay, that's old school model. Okay, that's the stuff that we don't do, right? Even stuff like, here's how to do a chest pass. We don't do a lot of that stuff. We actually just start using, jump right into games, get them moving, get them active, and get them just having fun. And that's the whole idea. Okay, so spoke on this earlier. Okay, this is what our coaching looks like in our practice. At the 5 to 7 age group, we probably spend 60% of the practice on just movement skills. This is just purely on, hey, let's have some fun. We have games like Animal Walk, Pac-Man, all kinds of different games that just focus on movements. And movement does not necessarily mean you have to do run straight, corner, turn. You can do so many things. Right? What are different movements? Just ideas of like toss up in the air. Like, what are different types of movements? You can run, roll, jog, slide, rolling, back pedal, crawl. You can skip, you can gallop, you can crab walk. So many different ways you can move, right? And again, I'll probably do some of this stuff tomorrow at the actual kids session. But when we talk about movement, I can embed variations of the drill just by using movements alone. I'm not even introducing basketball into any of the stuff we do at all. We're just focusing on, hey, how do I get movement, right? If I can do a drill where I'm just like, okay, only a left foot, okay? Get left foot hop. Okay, and now these athletes have to perform in a game using only left foot. How do you do a 2 foot? How do you do kangaroo jumps? Okay, all of these ideas are just ideas of how we make it fun, but focusing on movement. Because what happens if you just tell them to, okay, I want everybody to squat. Okay, here we go, I want everybody to jump. Is that fun? What would the kids do? First couple,
low intensity.
first couple will be okay, right? What happens if you keep the repetitions going? You get bored, right? So again, but we know movement skills is important. So how do you make it fun, right? So again, we do a lot of teachings around how to build physical literacy through movement skills in all of our practice sessions. Basketball skills 20%, and then we start adding the technical pieces at around 20% of that age group. And then as you see the progression of like 8 to 9-year-old, 10 to 12, these breakdowns start to shift a little bit, okay? A little bit older, okay, now I can do more basketball skills. Okay, now I can do more fundamental stuff, and then I can do a little bit more technical stuff. I'm also adding in competitive advantage through multiplayer teaching. Okay? Once you get into the learn to train age group, now you can again see the shift in the percentages, and then now adding technical strategies into our development pathway for athletes. Okay, so again, all this stuff, not that you gotta measure what 20% looks like of your practice session, but it's the idea that, hey, movement skills, foundation, then you build the fundamentals of your basketball for your young athletes. From there, that's, once you have those foundation, then you can start adding in the technical strategies. Okay, and again, these are teachings that we do at the Canadian basketball level. These are stuff that's being preached and educated to our coaches. And again, we create lesson plans for all of the coaches so that they have a template in which they can follow. Okay, from this standpoint, this is our pyramid. Okay, you want to know what fundamentals are? Well, movement skills, running, jumping, catching, agility, balance, coordination. Fundamental basketball skills, okay? Ready stance, footwork, dribbling, passing, shooting, layups. Okay? You build those as foundation. Then you get these where you then to start technical pieces, strategy pieces, and tactical pieces. Okay? That's our pyramid. That's how basketball is supposed to be taught progressively. Okay? What do coaches mostly do? Do coaches do this?
Probably they might jump into techniques.
I'll go through a U8, U9 basketball practice in the States. I'll hop down, I'll go to the States. Their practices, this and this. Okay? They're so focused on, okay, how do you, it's all about the coach, it's not about the athlete. How do I win a game? What are the strategies and tactics that I need to do to make sure that we excel at winning a game? Okay? I have my 3-year-old at home. Anybody know what mega blocks are? Yeah, blocks, yeah. They're kind of like Lego, but bigger. Okay? So my kid is building his mega blocks. Okay? And he starts stacking. One up top, one top, one top. It's got a very narrow tower. As you continue to build very high, what happens? It collapses. Okay? I use that analogy because with coaches that focus on winning, that's essentially what you're doing. You're not building this base. You're just like, okay, I'll do some passing and dribbling. I'm not building skill because I'm going to focus on how we're going to execute at the game. So you're focusing on the narrow part. Okay? At some point, if you focus too much on this at a young age, when they get to the youth level, when they get to later stages, they're like a very narrow tower that will just collapse because they don't have the capacity to get better. Okay? Our job is to get a wide base, right? Just like building a house. Build a brick layer, build a wide, and then you start stacking, and now you have a strong foundation. And that's, again, what we're trying to teach from a long-term development standpoint. Okay? Probably spinning this in a more Canadian context, but put up your hand if this is something that you have at least have an understanding or have heard. Okay? So again, context. Okay? This is not new stuff. We've been doing this stuff for about 15 years. But the more you're trying to understand, and again, getting that visual, right? Again, the whole mega blocks thing, I'm like, seriously, like my kid would just build it up and just like, what if you build a base? I said, okay, daddy. And he started building a bigger base, he started building it up. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, hey, same idea applies with coaching. Build your base. When you have a strong base, now you can start building up from there.
Just a question about, because I think when you have a model like this, it's easy if you start playing basketball at 5, but what do you do with all the late starters? I mean, we have a lot of kids that start at 13, 14, 15 years old, and it can be really hard to start at the base because it'll be basically too childish for them. So somehow you gotta motivate them to stay in the game, but to still learn the base and fundamentals. How do you guys work with that?
Very good question. Okay. Physical, mental, they're older. So they are at a certain level where they can take on more. Maybe it's a skill level that is not up to par of where, again, looking at a model like this. Right? So again, we're looking at, okay, physical pillar, skill basketball development pillar, mental pillar. Okay, if I'm 13, 14 and I'm just playing basketball for the first time, well, physically, I'm still physically a 13-year-old, right? Very different. Even though I need to take the basketball level to, okay, I maybe drop down the stage to do some of the stuff that can build the foundation, it doesn't mean they cannot physically do what a 13-year-old can do. Same thing on the mental load standpoint, right? Because again, we got to think about the experience they've gone through, the mental capacity, and how much they can take on. So maybe the idea is to keep the teachings for the physical, the mental load the same for that age group, but you're dropping down just a tap for the skill development piece so they can pick up the skills and then continue from there. One of the principles, again, we have a principle called loading. Right, and again, you're not going to put a 13-year-old with an 8-year-old in a program because it's going to demotivate them. And so what we try to do is use a loading principle where we can hit a game and we can have different levels of difficulty, right? So some of the lesser skill or new to the sport athletes could try the first level. It's the same game, but we're just increasing, using loading to increase the difficulty. So the first group can probably try using this level, and then obviously the more advanced kids are using the more advanced level. But the idea is that you're keeping them in the same environment. They are all learning the same activity, right? But you're using the idea of breaking them into different levels so that they're experiencing the development differently. I hope that kind of makes sense. Okay, awesome. So that's a long-term athlete development. Again, this is a 80 somewhat pages. 72 pages document. Okay, some are really good information. Some I'm just like, it's way too much scientific knowledge for me. But the idea is we started all of this stuff. We've been preaching it. That's been a big focus of what we have been doing at the Canada basketball level. Okay, 2.0. People have been bugging me about it. Okay, we have been working on a 2.0 document. Okay, it's not going to be printed. It's actually going to be a website. Okay, but the whole idea is, I don't know the environment enough in Germany, but at each level, when we talk about long-term athlete development, it's always talking about fundamentals, learn to train is a vertical pillar. But at each level, we're now seeing, okay, and learn to train. There's a recreational learn to train. There's probably some competitive learn to train out there. Okay, once you get to the next stage, there's some competitive, there's the recreational, competitive, and now this is where the elite pathway comes in. Okay, so what we try to do is start breaking down the continuum within each level of the progression in terms of, again, mental, physical, sport, what's appropriate, what's the environment look like, what are the modifications at each of those within the same stage, going across the continuum of recreational, competitive, and elite. What does that look like? And what is supposed to do? If you are a parent of a 9-year-old and you're playing once a week recreational basketball, and I want to be competitive, or I want to be on the national team level, what is the pathway to get there? Okay, so the idea for us, maybe after the presentation I'll show it on the website, but idea for us is, what is that pathway? Because if you're consistently playing once a week, is that enough for you to go move towards the high performance side? Right? If you're looking to start at recreational, going to national team, what does that look like? Where should your environment change? How much strength and conditioning? When do you start strength and conditioning? When do you do mental performance coaching? When do you have analytics to support data of all the performances? Right? So that's the next level of the long-term athlete development that we're working on in terms of, okay, well, we have this part where we're understanding how to build an athlete vertically. The next part is showing the parents and coaches the understanding of the environment. Because right now, our biggest challenge in Canada, everybody calling themselves elite. I'm hearing some chuckles. I'm thinking there's some similarity, but every program is selling the dream. Every club is telling their parents, yeah, come over here. This is where it's competition. And I'm like, do you have mental performance? Do you have strength and conditioning? How often do you train versus how often you compete? What's your ratio? Right? So for us, is we want to use this platform to educate coaches and parents that to move from this environment to this environment, here's what you're looking for. So we're allowing our parents to really understand what is the environment they should be in order to progress. Right? And everyone's path is different. You might come from a small town where you can only kind of go to a certain point, and you might say, okay, I'm not getting enough out of my current club. So how, if I have this desire to become over here, what else do I do? And that's the pieces that, again, it sounds kind of gibberish, I'll show that in a second, but the whole idea is it allows the understanding of the horizontal integration of an athlete pathway. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff that we're currently working on. We haven't published yet. I have a draft website, something I just put together. It's not even fancy, but it's something that we definitely have been working on. So, okay, awesome. How are we doing? Good. So far, so good. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, done with this new stuff. Next part I want to talk to is just what we do coach education-wise. Okay, so listen, this program that you guys are in, top notch. I wish we have that in Canada. I wish we have the ability to pull coaches together from different regions and be able to train them, put them through all the modules. Our country's big. To fly from one end of the country to the other end of the country is 6.5-hour flight. Not to mention how expensive it is. It's probably shorter distance for me to fly from Toronto to England, to London, England, than it is for me to go to Vancouver, which is on the west coast of Canada. Okay, so our geography limits us to be able to do some of this stuff, but I love what you guys are doing in terms of your ability to bring coaches together to grow, to put them through a program like this. 9th year of this, like kudos to you guys. Okay, for what we have, and again, our coaching development model is wrapped around long-term athlete development. Okay, where you guys have license C, license B, license A, we basically wrapped it around our stages, long-term athlete development. So if you are coaching 6 to 9-year-old, you have to have this course, this certification. If you are working with the 9 to 16, 8 to 15, again, we're going by males and female breakdown. This is the module, comp control module that we would introduce for coaches. If you are at the 16 plus level, this is where we need our coaches to do. Okay? The difference with some of the stuff for us is because our focus is on age and stage appropriate, this is not a linear piece where you have to have this before you go here, or you have to have this to go to here. For us, if you're coaching university, late high school university at a competitive level, I don't need you to have this because I want you to learn this stuff that's applicable to your competitive environment, your context, and the age level of athletes you're working with. If you're working, again, the community side, well, that's the model that we want you to have, is because the whole teaching is around the foundation of working with that age group. What are the do's and don'ts? You know, all the modules that you guys have built in terms of like how to talk to athletes, the interaction, you know, the pedagogy of all of the stuff that was talked about by Martin earlier, that's what we built into a community sport. But we don't need high-level coaches like that. Okay, so our focus around the whole age and stage appropriate is if you're coaching this age group, that's a certification that you need. Okay, so in our cases, again, when you are a coach for U14, boys youth basketball, well, you need to have this level before you can step onto the court, and that's how we build our coach education. Okay, and then again, same thing, everything we wrapped around it, long-term athlete development, building a lesson plan, interaction, communication, delivering feedback, like so much of that are a lot of similarities in terms of how to be a coach at each of those levels. Okay. We also have our own platform, okay, game plan. This is our coach education platform. So when you register as a coach, you're given access. You have a number. You're given access to join game plan. Okay, and this is where we dump a lot of our coaching information. Okay, you can find courses. You can, across the country, you can know exactly when courses are being delivered at different age groups. We dump all of our videos library in there. So when we have U16 training camp, when we have our academies, when we have our high performance programs to youth programs, we put all those videos in here so coaches can get access to it. We group them so that if you are a youth coach, you can see these are the videos that are applicable to you. If you're a high school coach, these are the videos that are applicable to you. This becomes sort of a home of what, you know, coaches get to have to get more understanding. So you take a course, you take the certification, you have the training piece. This is a secondary piece where you're given access to again, further enhance your learning. Similar to, I know, Tim, you have your YouTube channel, right? Again, those videos, it's a resource, right? Whether or not coaches take advantage of it, that's up to the coach. But what we try to do is make sure that we have the resources that we can share with coaches so that there are stuff there, right? Lesson plans, curriculums, all of that stuff is, again, housing here so coaches have access, regardless if you're a community coach working with just, you know, local kids, or if you're a, you know, provincial state coach working at high-level kids, we have resources that is applicable to those areas. So that's our coach education. Any questions around what we're doing on the coach side? Okay?
Ron.
Yep.
So if you're a coach in Canada and you're coaching a U14 team and you do not have the certificate, you cannot coach. Is that right?
Technically, yes.
Yes.
But we all know it's a big country. It's hard to monitor, right, track. We know at the national level, provincial competition level, we can enforce it. At the community level, it's impossible to track, right? But if you're a U14 coach and you're playing in a U14 provincial, right, and your team is to enter into it, well, we make sure that you have to have the certification before you're on the bench for the provincial championship, right? So we continuously promote, push, and say all coaches need to. But again, I think from a resource standpoint, hard to track everybody. It's really based on, I know you guys have this called states here in Germany. In our country, it's provinces. So every province has their own body. You have basketball Ontario, basketball Manitoba, and based on each of the offices. Because some office, smaller provinces, 2 staff. Bigger provinces, 10 staff, 15 staff. Okay, so they can do more because they have more people, they have more resources. But again, we are trying to get to an alignment nationally that this is the base standard. That if you're a coach, if you're a club, you submit your coach roster, and then you start tracking until all your coaches have the proper certification in order to coach.
Do you update someone's licenses, like they have to renew it, or how long does it last, like to have the license?
The courses, lifetime. But every 3 years, you have to have professional development points. So professional development points is courses that you take, any clinics, courses that you take to further educate yourself. So when you have taken one of your, let's just say, learn to train, you take a learn to train, you've taken it, you're good. We don't have, at this point, we don't have a renewal system. What we have is, well, for every 3 years, you have to collect 5 points in order to maintain your certification. And these points are earned when we we have monthly series, webinar series. We have our big super clinic, which is like, once a year. We work with the provinces to deliver coaching sessions provincially. And so when you take those, go register and participate in those courses, take on a webinar, you earn 1 point here. You take a bigger clinic, you get 2 points here. So you earn the points to maintain your certification. So we don't have the whole, because we just don't have that tracking system at this point.
It's okay, it's the same as in
Yeah. Awesome.
I have just, sorry,
Yeah.
saying there, so if you have the fundamentals diploma, if you would attend learn to train sessions, would they count for those points, or would they not count?
No, separate pillars. Separate pillars. Okay. So let's get to the teachings, okay? My first half of this, giving you some philosophy, giving you some background, giving you long-term athlete development, that's the boring part. You guys are coaches that kind of be like, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? How do I do it? What should I be doing? Okay? We're going to get to this part now, okay? So I'll start with the context. This is important. Every presentation, I always start with this. Who plus why equals what plus how. I can tell you all the tricks of the trade. I can tell you how to do it, what to do. I can say, okay, you got, this is the game that you want to do with this group of kids. But until you understand this, none of this matters. Okay? And when you kind of cover a lot of this, who are you coaching? Why are they here? Why are you here? Okay? So this is the foundation piece, right? This is the piece that, again, if you don't have a strong foundation for it, like this stuff, Google, YouTube, basketball practice, 9-year-old, you can find all kinds of stuff. How? You can find all kinds of stuff. But until you truly understand this, none of this matters. Okay, so let's talk about it. Mini basketball, who are we coaching? Who are we coaching? Mini basketball. Little kids. What do they look like? What do they sound like? What do they feel like? What do they taste like? No, not taste. Give me some ideas. What do they look like? What do they sound like? They got you. Think of unique, right? They're unique. What do they look for? Different things. Fun's a big one.
Friends, community.
Friends, community. Attention. What else? Anything else?
New stuff, knowledge. They just want to try stuff.
So in our coaching courses for youth, first module, you know your participants. Okay? It's a who. If you don't know the who, how can you deliver the how? It needs to be appropriate. It needs to make sense for them. Right? So when I'm picturing a young child, and again, child is unique, right? They are excitable. Some are shy. A lot of them are looking for fun. Here's a question. How do you know when they're having fun? When they're laughing. Okay, so it sounds like a lot of laughter. What else?
They're coming back.
They're coming back.
I don't want to go.
They
don't want to go.
They don't want to go. I'll tell you my favorite thing about youth coaching.
Want to repeat?
They want to repeat, yeah. My favorite thing about youth coaching, at the end of every session, when we do a loud cheer to end the session, they're running to their parents, face are probably red, little bit of sweat breaking through out of their head, okay, a little sweaty, and they're running to their parents. Mommy, mommy, that's so much fun, I can't wait to come back. That is my favorite moment, because that means you've done a good job. That's validation of you doing a good job. Okay? But again, understanding who you're working with, know your participants. Okay, so one other teaching concept, KYP, know your participants. Okay? Who are we coaching? At the end of all this has nothing to do about you. It's 100% to do with the kids and participants. And everything we talk about is how you create a fun, positive, safe, inclusive environment for your participants. It's not about your legacy. It's not about, oh, I'm such a good coach, everybody talks about me. It's not about ego. It's about how you make sure that at the end of every session, they laugh, they have red poppy cheeks, and they're running to their parents and say, I can't wait to come back. That's what you're looking for. Okay? So you can visualize and put that in your head, and now everything you do is around that image. You reflect on it, and you kind of put that image in your head and be like, I need to do this every time so that I can get this. Okay? You're now understanding what coaching youth basketball is. Okay, so I put a bunch of stuff here, and you can read it and whatnot. Engagement, make it memorable, it has to be fun, encourage them to be their best amongst themselves and not try to compete with others. These are all concepts that, again, when you're truly embracing the idea of you know your participants, you really, truly embrace youth basketball. Okay? Questions on this part? Because I know this is not new information. Okay, my next KYP is know your purpose. Okay, so the who is addressed. Okay, you know the who is addressed. Well, let's talk about the why. What is your purpose? Why are you doing it? it's fun for you too, right? I mean, you gotta lug a bag of basketballs every week, and you gotta go to the gym, and you know, you gotta brave through the cold, and it's slippery outside. I slipped 3 times last night, by the way. You're all, you know, but you're getting the enjoyment, right? And when you talk about your purpose, when you talk about bringing that passion into the gym to share your passion, okay, that's a cycle, right? I use this terminology, I use this example for energy and passion, because you as a coach is the one that brings that passion and energy into the gym. When you're excited, the kids get excited. And what happens when the kids get excited? You get excited. I honestly, if my kids have low energy, I'm probably monotone for the rest of the session, but I understand the idea that it's a cycle within a coaching session. Regardless if it's a 1 hour, 90-minute, 2-hour session, if you bring the energy, you get kids excited. But when kids are excited, it feeds that energy right back to me, so that it's a continuous cycle of excitement throughout the entire session. Okay, and that again, for me, for coaching, when we talk about all this stuff with coaching through basketball, that's what we look for, right? Why do you coach? What is the purpose of the team or program you're running? Are you a transactional? I'm going to go through it in a second, but understand, ask yourself those questions to really truly understand, hey, why am I here? Should not be about the money. Should not be about, oh, you know, I need it for a school credit because I get, you know, hours, community hours or whatever it is. It should always come back to, if your purpose has to come back to the kids. The who and the why ties right back down to athlete center about the youth. And if you truly understand that part, you're good. The how and the what comes later. You can literally make them hop around and, you know, do whatever, but if you can actually create a fun environment and take those, embrace those ideas, that's a big part of it. Okay? We've been very big on this concept of transactional coaching versus transformational coaching. Okay, this is something that is relatively new in the last couple of years. We have now embedded into all of our education. We have now really focused on making sure coaches understand. Okay, just by the word, what do you think transactional coaching is?
It's a business where it's not really about the people, it's about what do I get from you, what do you get from me. Okay,
so it's kind of like very transactional, right? It's kind of like, okay, I'll give you this if you do that, right? How many of you have dogs? Have a pet? A puppy, a dog. Okay, I remember when I used to train dogs, if you do something good, good dog. Good boy, here's a treat. What happens if they do something bad? When they pee on the floor or they bark? Hey, stop! Can't do that. Okay? That's transactional. You get reward for being good, you get punished for being bad. That's transactional. Till this day, coaches still, a lot of coaches still uses transactional coaching. Make a layup, hey, good job. Miss a layup, oh, come on. You should have made a layup. Yeah, right? What's wrong with you? Did you eat your breakfast this morning? Okay? The whole concept of, you gotta stay away. Okay? Using rewards and punishment as the means to motivate, overlooking the process and focus on the outcome, winning, and going after his players. Right? Like in North America, the old school coaching is they rely on, hey, you gotta be tough. Tough it out. Right? If you make a mistake or if you do something wrong, what's wrong with you? You know what? Tough it out. right? Only the strong survive. That's the mentality of North American coaching, right? And we're realizing, well, is that the right way to coach? What would be transformational? So if transactional coaching is this, what would be transformational?
Lifelong teaching.
Somebody said
Lifelong teaching.
lifelong teaching.
That they're making mistakes.
You allow them to make mistakes, but you encourage them, right?
Yeah, encouragement.
Encouragement.
To try.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try out and try out.
Okay? You're coaching people first. You're not coaching winning and losing. You're coaching people first. Okay? The game is secondary. Right? Especially at this age group. When you can understand the concept of, okay, people come first. How do I make sure this athlete is going to get the best? And we talked about the feedback. Okay, what are the feedback you can give them? Not what's wrong with you, hey, you suck, or you know, you should have done this better. But it's how do you encourage them so that they are growing as a person. Okay, and that's the transformational piece. Like, how are you a positive role model? And again, when we talk about all this, you're being not just a coach to them, you're being a role model to them. You're helping them to be better athletes, but more importantly, you're helping them to be better people. Right? Everything we do, we're guiding them, providing them with more confidence. And that's, again, when we go through our coaching courses in Canada, a lot of this stuff is preached first and foremost, right? I think no different than a lot of the teachings here, but these are our terminologies that we use for our courses. Okay? There was a slide that was about development versus winning, process versus outcome. Okay? And again, I don't think I need to go into details of this one, but you get the idea. Right? It's about how you help an athlete develop. It's about the process. I care about the process because if I'm good at my process, the outcome will happen eventually. Right? What does play look like? What does train look like? What does competing look like? Okay? And again, these are a lot of the ideas and really kind of embed these thinking into coach's head. Right? Because if you understand all this stuff, and again, this is repeated, I'm sure, but the more you hear it, the more you think about it, self-reflect on it, that's the stuff that's going to help you gain a better understanding. Trust the process. I always say this, trust the process. Okay? We have a quote. I don't know if you can read it. If you're going to turn children off basketball, go coach soccer. Go coach football. Okay, you tell coaches this. Okay, but the idea is trust the process, right? We're all out here to really kind of get a strong understanding of development. It's about encouragement. It's about having fun. It's making sure kids are learning the right way, age and stage appropriate. All those terminology, again, we just drill at that youth level with our coaches to make sure that they're continuously thinking it, because there's so much stuff out there like this. Like you can really go on Google and say basketball practice 9-year-old, and you can see all kinds of crazy stuff, right? But until you know the who and the why, and you ask yourself those questions until you truly, really get the idea behind it, none of those stuff matters. Okay? Because when you know the who and the why, you now can cater, design, make awesome lesson plans based off of the philosophies there. So far so good? How are we feeling? I would like this to say, how much, yeah, you try to make me go 2 hours. Jeez. Philosophies, not going into details, fun, participation, development, education, character. These are stuff that we put in our coaching manuals, okay? I'll share the slide with anyone who's interested. I'll share with Tim. Tim can probably put it on the website somewhere. But, you know, these are some that in all of our materials, any of our curriculums, we just kind of put that first and foremost so that our coaches know it's about fun. It's about encouraging participation. It's about development. It's about providing the proper education to the coaches and then character building, right? Because sport is a powerful tool. We use sport as a way to develop leaders. We use sport as a way to develop people. It's not about me going into a coaching session and say, you do this, you do that. I want my athletes to talk more. I want my athletes to be engaged so they can build the different confidence, life skills, teamwork, all those pieces to be a better person overall. Okay, and that's again some of our philosophy here. My slides, Tim, like you got all the cool stuff. You got videos and quotes and like mine probably too wordy. But I put it up there for discussion points really, but I don't intend on going through every single point. You guys can probably read some of this stuff, but teach them things to do. You know, we talk about, hey, how do we educate coaches? Here's some ideas, right? We talk about creating a culture. What are some ways you can create a culture in the practice?
Rituals.
What kind of rituals?
Get together.
Get together. You can start off every session with a big cheer. I do dance off at the end of my sessions. Okay, not Ted Lasso style, but similar, right? You got different kids doing dance off. We have competitions that ends off, you know, with the big thing out here. Culture. How do you build a culture, right? How do you make sure that kids are coming in, they know what to expect? What is a culture in your environment, right? When you speak, are they talking? Are they respecting each other? That's all culture. Right? Because you, as a coach, can have a lot of influence in that environment. And when you can do a good job, and the kids become part of the culture, guess what? The back and forth teaching and learning goes that much more smoothly. Okay? Speak actively, reward engagement, ask questions. Instead of telling them, hey, today we're going to do passing. What's passing? What does passing mean? Who's a good passer in the NBA? Right? I almost never tell participants what to do, other than giving instruction for a game, but I always ask questions. Because question debrief is my way of trying to get them to feed me information. What happens when you don't have when you have one kid who just talks all the time and you have a lot of shy kids? How do you get their engagement? What are ways you can get engagement of some of the shy kids?
Ask a direct question to like, because you know your kids, you know who you can ask, and you taught them before, so ask them direct question, and then reward them by using the answer to create a new game or practice.
Yeah, okay. You can ask questions directly, that's one way. Sometimes they might get shy. Sometimes they may be like, oh, why is this coach asking a question? Right? You can pair them up and then have them each give you an answer. Right? You can give them a piece of paper and have everybody write down a thought or an answer that they think is the right answer. And then they hold it up. Maybe they're shy to speak. But different ideas to just engage in how do you get them to present to you. Because at the end of the day, when you get them engaged, they are comfortable. The comfortable builds confidence. Confidence is then going to transfer into teaching and learning environment back and forth, right? Because now they're fully engaged. Now they want to try something, do something. And that's some, again, different ideas of how you can kind of use some of these things to be a part of your coaching methods. Things to say, tell stories, use landmarks, speak to the level, keywords, be descriptive, be personal. Okay, any of these struck out at you? Any of these that you feel you do really well on? and you guys don't do any of this? Okay, all of this stuff, it's not rocket science, nor is it new information. A lot of it, when you read it, common sense, right? When you read this, common sense. But what it is, the more you're putting this in your head, the more you're hearing it, the more it becomes part of your everyday, right? And hopefully this is, information that you can now continuously build on. And okay, if I am speaking to the level, what does that mean? Okay, how do I build on it? If I'm already talking to my athlete, okay, I know the name. Do you know every single kid's name, right? You speak to them, not only during practice, maybe on the side. You know stories. You'll step down and speak to them eye-to-eye level, right? Are they comfortable with you, right? Again, keep reflecting on each of these and build it. Make it yours, right? Your way of being relatable, your way of working and speaking to them at different levels is how you're going to build that engagement and develop a passion for it. I'll keep going through different stuff. Stop me again. I'll just kind of speak through some of the stuff that we consistently preach with our coaches. I got 3 points here. Okay? And anything I teach, no more than 3 points of emphasis. Coaches love to talk. Coaches like to keep going and going and going. It's like, okay, today we're going to do this. What's the attention span of a 7-year-old?
30 seconds.
Close enough. It's around there, right? It's around, I think when I read it, a 6-year-old was like 10 seconds. Once you get to like 7, 8-year-olds, you're now getting into just under 30 seconds, right? So the more you talk, you're going to lose it. Get to your point. Same thing as games. When we put games together, a lot of times we want to go through all the rules. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the guidelines. No, I'm okay with a portion of the game and then starting it. Okay, so to my point here, 30 seconds to start. Okay, if I'm going into a game and I want a group of kids to get into an activity, okay, here's what we're going to do. First we're going to do, here's your area. We're going to stay within this area and we're only going to be dribbling with the right hand. Okay, and they start. I'm not giving the next instruction. Once they get the understanding, now I'm built, right? And the idea is action, action, action. Not talk, talk, talk. Okay? You go into your activities as quickly as possible so you are keeping them moving. It should be 90% out of your session, 90% should be action and movement. Right? What happens is I see a lot of coaches just want to talk, explain. Here's the shooting technique. In passing, here's what we're going to do. Everybody get into ready position, eyes looking up, okay? And when you're going to make a pass, you're going to cut the ball in your chest right here and get your thumbs underneath it. You're going to make sure that you get your ball into your partner. You're going to step into your pass, okay? While you're stepping down, I want you to use your force to push out. And when you're releasing it, keep the thumbs down. Guess what? They're not getting any of that. Okay? Coaches want to talk, but my thing is action. Okay? 30 seconds to start. Go. Okay? If I need to break things down into small chunk size, go. Okay? And then for me, my games need to change quickly. And 10 minutes is probably the max that I would stay at one activity. Now you can take one game and then you can load and you can build difficulties and all of that, but I try to mix things up so that kids are constantly engaged. Okay? So that was the coaches. What do you ask from athletes? Okay? These are, again, just some concepts that we throw out there. Lead yourself, give energy, know how to follow, lead others. Okay? And again, we put out all this stuff in our coaching manual so that when coaches go through the session, this is what you ask of them. Okay, everybody, remember our rules for the day. Okay? Lead yourself, give lots of energy. Remember the ice thing we talked about, okay? Sometimes I skip all that, just go straight to ice. Okay, I want intensity, I want concentration, and I want energy. Okay, that's what you're gonna give me for the next 90 minutes. Okay, so these are kind of the guidelines. Phases of teaching. And this is where I'm now getting more into the how now. Okay, this is the how and the what. Phases of teaching in our curriculum, in our lesson plans. Okay, a lot of our phases are kind of broken down. If you can see, like phase A, normally it's an on-air piece where you're just learning a new skill. Phase B, you start using a game concept to start getting athletes to think and make decisions. Phase C, you now have the execution piece of it, using a guided defender as a one-on-one. And then phase D is now more of a competitive context. Okay, we almost, this is probably 6-7 years ago. I'd probably say this part, we're doing less and less of it. The on-air part, we're doing less and less of it. Anybody know why?
Skills and action like always come together with like perception. So there's always perception and action should be coupled. So that's how skills emerge in the game.
Get them to do. Get them to do. Like I know when we first put a lot of our curriculum stuff together, it's like, okay, you have to teach passing before you can start doing the games. I actually have no problem. Start with the game first. Then Eric the tech, look at what they are doing right, what they're doing wrong, and then teach from there. I have no problem and say, okay, everybody work on your passing. No instructions, but like, go. Make 50 passes. But I want different passes. It cannot be 50 chest passes. I want you to mix them up. Go. Okay, that's another strategy. Okay, you have coaching where you're giving instructions. You have games where you're using a game format to teach. And then I also have self-exploration where you are getting happy to just visualize what you think it is, go and do it. I'm not telling you anything, just go and do it. Okay, that's something we have found very successful. Because they might have seen on TV, oh yeah, LeBron passes like this, and Steph was doing a no-look pass, boom, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be, because this rarely happens in the game, right? So allowing athletes to visualize, self-explore, and do some of this stuff, that's okay. Right? Then from there, then you can build. You can use games and try to do different ways of passing, stuff like that. Same thing with shooting, same thing with dribbling. Pretend you are Steph Curry dribbling, and just go wild. Right? Work on your dribbles. So there's the self-exploration piece that we allow athletes to develop mentally. Some of it would be like, but they're not doing this right. That's okay. They're doing it. Keyword is they're doing it. Okay? And if they think this is what dribbling looks like, that's okay. Let them explore it. If they try it, if they experience it, if they visualize it, they see success with it, that's okay. Right? You start teaching along the way. I think sometimes with mini basketball, we're just so focused on teaching, that it's okay to let them self-explore, right? And then you guys correct, like not necessarily correct them, but give them instructions. Here's how you can do more, right? But it never has to be like coaches can probably say, here's how you break down shooting, right? For a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, do they need to learn the finer steps of how to properly take a jump shot? Probably better just, okay, use all your legs and power up. Okay? Work on understanding how to use your legs. Okay, good. Now I built on top of it from there. Okay, so that again, some of the stuff in terms of how we go through phases of teaching, that's another element that we do a lot of in Canada to make sure that coaches understand how to progress and how to progress accordingly. Okay, I spoke of this concept earlier. Huge. One of my favorite things. And if you have, I know some of the coaches here knows Sergio Lara from my coach kids. Okay, the idea of loading, the idea of creating layers to a game, the idea of modifying the game so that you can increase the level of difficulty. Okay, that's what we've been focusing on. In all of our lesson plans that we share with coaches in our curriculum, it literally would be, here's a game. Okay, everybody loves the ideas of games, right? But load 1, load 2, load 3, load 4. I probably have games that can go into 15 different variations. Okay, idea is you're constantly adding elements. You're challenging an athlete. And Thomas, to your point earlier, you know, some who might not be as skilled, they can stay at a certain level. Some more advanced kids, don't hold back some advanced kids. You can put them in the next level and go at a higher level of difficulty. Okay? Loading, we load the tasks, we load the environment, and we load the person. When we talk about loading the task, that's adding a new element to it. So, anybody can give me an example? If I'm dribbling the ball, how would I, if I'm talking about dribbling, I'm using a very basic example. How would you load a pass of dribbling?
Change the hands.
Oh, change hands, perfect. Yeah, go left, right. Okay, so, okay, I'm going right hand, I'm dominant hand, I'm good, I'm comfortable. Okay, I'm going left. Okay, now next you're gonna go left, right? When you're comfortable, you can maybe do 2-hand dribble. If you want to try, okay, I want to dribble one ball, but keep a tennis ball bouncing, hand-eye coordination, switch, right? So loading is just an element of like how you can take one activity, one game, one drill, and just build on it. Okay? Loading the environment, what does that mean?
Adding defenders or changing position of defenders or other competitors.
That's loading the person. Environment is just a space.
Some code, so they have to use that.
Yeah. Environment is just, you got space, tighter, bigger, you know, creating more obstacles, right? So that you can use the environment as a way to stimulate, you know, certain activities. Loading the person, as you alluded to, is adding defender, adding a 1-second advantage for, you know, you're starting a drill. When the defender can now jump in after 2 seconds, so you're creating those advantages. So you start loading all of these different ways of changing, taking one game and you build. Okay? That's something that we have been very much focused on preaching on, making sure that, you know, a lot of coaches just say, okay, we do this game, we do this game, we do this game. Well, sometimes to transition from one game to the next game, you're already killing time in practice. But if I can take one game and go through 6 different variations of it, the kids understands the concept of the game, but you're increasing level of difficulty. I'm actually doing this game, they're being challenged each and every time. You get through a longer period of doing something, action, continuous action, right? And they are adding towards the skill level. Okay, and that's something that, again, we have really kind of, you know, put a lot of energy, and I probably will say, if you guys are interested, we created a book of games that are probably, I think, 60 or 70 different games at the mini basketball level. And we have loading progression that we're happy to share, just to kind of, so you guys to see how are ways that you can load the games. I won't go into this. This is just an example of loading. I'll probably go into some of this stuff tomorrow with kids and participants, so you can kind of see what do I mean by it. How do I transition from one game and then move to the next part without wasting more than 30 seconds. Right? When I'm loading, To my point, 30 seconds. I'm going from one game to the next in less than 30 seconds. Right? Because I give one instruction. Okay, this time you're gonna do X. Okay, good, awesome, everybody's good. You understand it, right? Okay, now for the next one, we're gonna switch to Y. Okay, but my less than 30-second instruction is creating different mental thoughts, stimulating something different, and you're continuously building an environment of action, fun, and kids are active, engaged, right? And I'm not sitting down and I'm not kind of going, okay, everybody sit while I set up my next drill. No, I try to minimize the time I switch to a transition to the games. Okay, a few more here, games approach. This is something that, again, I think it's been talked about, using games as a way to teach, using games as a way to deliver teaching points. Stay away from the traditional drill. Stay away from, okay, do 50 right-hand layups and 50 left-hand layups, or make 10 jump shots from the top of the key. We don't do that stuff at that level, right? Repetitions and drills. Probably as you get a little bit older, you're moving towards that high performance pathway, you can kind of start refining your skill, and that's good. But at a mini basketball level, using games, go. Have fun, play. Right? You're going to learn the skills while you're doing all this, but I don't need to make you do 20 proper jump shots. You can literally just do those while you're playing games. Okay, give everybody an opportunity, get them moving, active. That's what it's all about. Okay, and again, when I share some of the lesson plans that I can talk about, if you want to see it, you'll see that the lesson plan design of what we do with our coaches are very much jumping from icebreaker games to the first game that teaches the first skill, then we lace into second game, third game. There's a lot of just movements. Right, we're trying to minimize on the talking part, but focusing on the game play. This should be very simple, self-explanatory. Okay, foundation for what we try to do. All games should be fun. They have to be safe. They should be simple. Okay, challenges, graduating challenges, so load them accordingly. Make sure games are appropriate for the stage of development. I use an 80-20 rule. Okay? What 80-20 means is, a lot of times when you're at a session and you have one or two kids who don't get it or don't get the idea or concept of the drill or the activity, you stop everybody. Right? And then everybody else has to listen saying, no, that's not how you do it, here's how you do it. No. For us, if you're 80% of the class gets it, keep them moving. Work with the 20% one-on-one. But don't stop the flow of the class just because I think people gets it. Okay? That's the 80-20 rule for us. Teach the game the same way to everyone, and then adapt. Okay? Based on the understanding and skill level of the athletes, depending on ability disabilities, and then maximize participation for elimination games. Again, these are some of the how of and what. Okay, our adaptive technique. This is something that we are consciously preaching to our coaches as well. This is across all sports. This is not just a basketball thing. This is across all sports. Adapt to ability, adapt to difficulty, adapt to area, adapt to participants, adapt to time, adapt to inclusion, adapt to variability, adapt to equipment. Okay, again, I'm not going to read them out loud, but those are just concepts of how we make sure that coaches are constantly thinking so that the environment is appropriate, safe, fun, and inclusive for participants. Okay, and the last part of this I just wanted to go into is, nobody knows what this is, right? Why do you explain to it?
It's more contact with the kids, more decision making, more practice times, more efficient use of their times, no wasting time standing around waiting or whatever.
So, Ron, you show a slide on football, touches, right? I still have parents coming up to me and say, I'll do like a 3-on-3 session at the end of the practice. I'm like, okay, we're going to do some 3x3 games and we're just going to go. Right? We'll do a team sport and kind of move around. And I got parents coming up to me and say, that's not basketball. When are you going to do 5-on-5? I'm like, come again? Why is it not basketball? First of all, it's an Olympic sport. Okay? But for us, I actually sat down a parent beside me and I go, here, you know what? Stay with me. We're going to sit on the bleacher and we're going to watch the child. Which one's the child? Okay. We're going to count how many touches the child gets. And we play a 5-minute 5-on-5 game and a 5-minute 3-on-3 game. Okay, in a 5-on-5 game, you know, the child was not the, you know, like, you guys all know youth basketball. You usually have 1 or 2 dominant kids who just go coast to coast, right? And then the rest of the kids just stands around and maybe get a pass here and there, right? So sure enough, you got 1 5-on-5 game, the kids can maybe touch maybe, you know, 8-9 times the ball. You go to a 3-on-3 game, all of a sudden, 26, 27 touches, right? Because you're constantly working within a smaller groups, and you have to work on teamwork. And so I go to the parent, I'm like, which one do you think your child will develop faster? Which version of the game do you think will help them build more confidence? Right? And shut the parent up. But the idea is, we've now probably, again, for all of our curriculum up until U10, and this is for the youth basketball level, is we don't even talk about 5-on-5 basketball. We are purely preaching 1, 2, and 3. Play small-sided games, okay? More touches, better spacing, with move presses, more meaningful possession. There's no, you know, I get the basketball, there's transition, but think about every touch you're facing the basket, or you're guarding an active offensive player going to the basket. That's a meaningful touch. That's a meaningful possession, right? When youth basketball, you see a lot of just like spending a lot of time, wasting a lot of time just going from one end to kind of half, a 3/4. You spend that time transition, take that away, just focus on, here's a basket, try to score. If you're defending, try to defend. Meaningful possession, teach them the concept, right? Then when you start getting into a little bit older, you can start going to 4-on-4, and we do a smaller 4-on-4 cross court before transition to 5-on-5 basketball. And again, that's something that we have been preaching. That's sort of the movement that we are doing a lot of to really kind of educate coaches, parents to really do this. Right? The kids love it. They love it. Way more touches, way more fun. Right? And then again, this is all stuff that we are really focused on, making sure that we are giving that education to our stakeholders. Okay, not going to go into details. I know, Tim, you're asking about some of the rules that we have. I just want to put them up here. Not that it matters, but it really just kind of gives you an idea. We have 4 different areas. Equipment and court, okay? What are we doing? How do we modify them? Again, when we talk about age and stage appropriate, well, the equipment needs to be appropriate. Size of basketball, height of basket, right? Free throw line, right? If you're 7-year-old, 6-year-old, we're not shooting from a 15-foot free throw line, right? It's all about experience success. How do you modify your environment to make sure that you're catering to age and stage appropriate? Okay, so that's, again, just some ideas in terms of what we do in terms of promoting the guidelines for youth basketball. Now, I have a lot of people who come to me and say, well, our facility is good. We don't have adjustable baskets. We can't put our net down to 8 feet. What do you do? You have old You have an old facility, you don't have adjustable basket, what do you do?
Rules, right? You get a point, you hit the rim, for example.
Okay.
Or like place down the boxes so they can go on and then change rules.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Modify. Be creative. Be focused. Be creative. I used to hang a hula hoop on the basket. You don't have to score in the basket. You just have to get ball through the hoop. Okay. So it hangs down, but you're scoring a point every time. So it's the idea of you're going on offense. You're trying to go towards this target. Right, and you're trying to shoot towards a hula hoop instead of an actual basket. That's not basketball. Concept's the same, right? So you can be creative as coaches. Game format, again, I understand the differences between different federations, what we do, but again, these are something that we are providing a guideline for because. At the youth level, 14 plus level, no issue. Fewer rules, right? You just go, these are the same rules. But for whatever reason, at the youth level, everybody wants to do something different. And so we started putting out a bit of guidelines. We're not at the point of making them mandatory countrywide. We have now created the guidelines to now push through to all of our provinces, and then for them to take them on, adapt it, and then eventually over time in the next 3 to 5 years, we will then hopefully get to a point where we can make them mandatory. But the idea here is, making sure that taking into considerations physical ability, capacity, and understanding age and stage appropriate. Okay, so we do this for game tactics. Okay, we talk about equal playing time, coach's discretion, defense, all of that type of stuff. These are, again, just thinking through at youth level what are concepts like this and like that. Okay, so the last one I put up is gameplay. Backboard, shot clock, 5 seconds, clock stoppage. It does not need to be the adult model of the game. Okay, so there's one thing that we constantly talk about is kids do not need to play the adult model of the game. Make it kid-friendly, make it fun, and make sure that it's appropriate, right? They need to get enjoyment of all this. They need to experience success. Talk about all this, right? If they don't experience success, think of little Jimmy, little Tom, trying to shoot against the basket. And they're not hitting it. High session, you spend 60 minutes trying to hit a basket, not hitting it. What happens if you don't experience success? You get pissed off, you get dissatisfied. In some cases, I don't want to play this, it's too hard for me. Right? So your job is to make it appropriate, make it fun for them. Okay? So,
question about the gameplay.
Yeah.
The referees are as children still with balls, like throwing inbound balls and everything. What age do we have? Like under 12 or under 10? They don't need to referee to touch the ball before they inbound the ball.
Yeah, so like I would say probably at this level to this level, in between there, is when we start kind of be like, okay, now you have to pass it out, and you can kind of try to deflect if you can, but we try to make sure that you have enough spacing before the inbound.
I don't mean that. I mean that as referees get the ball first, and give it I like to keep the game a little bit quicker. Do you do that at all? Or?
7-8, not at all. You just play.
All right.
Right. The coach is the one who reps. Right. The coach is like, as soon as you make a basket or out of bounds, coach is about, okay, go. Right. Okay. There's no. I'm standing on the sideline and be like inbound play, none of that. You just like toss the ball to the next kid and you're going. Right. Keep it moving. Right. Based on stage, based on level at the 9-11, if you have a novice group, a beginner group, same thing. Right. You can start introducing the actual inbound stuff and whatnot if you have kids who understand, because that's probably the age where you can start to implement more rules, but at a younger age group, don't. go. That's not what it's doing. Just, again, keep them moving, less standing, just go, action. Okay, so that's what we do. I don't think it's anything new, I'll be honest. I think a lot of the concept, ideas, philosophies, similar. If you did something out of it, even if you say, oh, I love the idea of ICE, or I love the idea of PYP, know your participants, know your players, know your purpose. Okay, if you kind of get some of those ideas, and help you start reflecting on, hey, how can I do more? How can I do better? Okay, hopefully it helps a little bit. Okay, at the end of it, for us, we are really kind of, trying to champion this through, again, for our country this big and that we have in this, from geographically, it's hard for us to get in front of everybody. So we do a lot of coach education through Zoom sessions. We do a lot of courses through Zoom and stuff like that. So that allows us to kind of get more touch points. We have, I mentioned this monthly webinar series to talk about more of these type of concepts, just to basically put that education piece. But hopefully this gives you a bit of an idea. Open to any questions?
Maybe a little bit of question about how you do it as a federation. In Denmark, coaches, club volunteers are volunteers. So there's quite a big change in how long we have these people in our system.
Yeah.
So when you talk about this is what we push, this is the education that we try to teach, what do you do to make sure that you don't go somewhere and then you teach something and then 2 years later those people are gone and there are new people involved in this? I understand it's a tough question to answer, but these are some of the issues that we are going through as a federation when we try to push this. Is that, or is it just to say, okay, this is just a long-term thing, we do this as much as possible, and then in 10 years, hopefully people are still in the game somewhere, maybe at a different place, and it'll kind of catch on. But how do we make sure that we get to everybody and that we...
For us, this is just for Canada, retention will always be a problem because we don't have full-time paid positions. Most of our clubs operate similar to you, volunteer-based. Right? A parent could be coming in and do it for 2 or 3 years because my child is in this program. But as soon as my child moves to the next level, I no longer want to be involved. Happens all the time. What we try to do is make our coach education as accessible as possible so that from a training standpoint, it's an easy entry point. Right? So if you are a coach just brand spanking new, either you play high school basketball and you want to start coaching, or you're a parent, we want to make it as accessible as possible so that it's, here, take this course, learn the basics, right? You can continuously, professional development wise, take more to learn more, at least it gives you a foundation. So when I showed you our core education for fundamentals, like I think I was speaking to you this in terms of like how many hours. Our first course, 4 hours. So you don't have an excuse, right? Take 4 hours, learn the basics. And when I say learn the basics, you're understanding the why and the who, and you're learning about safety, you're learning about how to at least start with making a lesson plan, right? That's the basics. I don't necessarily need to go into the what and the how at this age group because most of the time we provide a lesson plan to all of the coaches. Right, here's a standard lesson plan of what you can do for a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, but that's the what and the how. But I know a lot of coaches are so focused on how do I teach shooting? What are the proper teaching steps I need to do? We don't need to spend so much time on it because you have to understand the who and the why first, give them the foundation. Everything else comes at the next one. Right. Once you get to learn to train that, you can start lacing on the teaching progression pieces. But at that first Minibasketball level, when we talk about the 6 to 9 inch group, play games. Let's go. Let's just let them go. Right. So when I say we're doing passing game or shooting game, I'm not even go into details on how to shoot or how to pass, and I'm just letting them try it because their first experience. So from a retention standpoint for us, it's really just accessibility of coding courses to give them the understanding.
How you can bring your philosophy to the sport teachers? Because I think it's like in US that the most, so what we are talking about, more about clubs,
yes,
or more about schools? Because I don't know how is mini basketball in Canada, if it's like same model like in US.
You want to know something? Federation has no control of school sport in Canada. They operate entirely separately, and they're their own entity. So their phys ed teachers, when they go to the basketball curriculum, they don't have to have certification. So for us, it's not even a conversation because it's been very separate. When we talk about what we control at the federation level, it's club basketball, it's all of the different groups, the provincial body, state provincial body, and we promote basketball that way. But the school system has been something that is, in our context, in our country, totally operates separately. So tough. I'd love to get to the point where we can say, can we all talk, work together, because you're going to be teaching basketball, teaching the right thing. But there, like I can probably tell you, some of the high school teachers are still teaching old school stuff, right? They're still teaching the whole, here's how to do this, and things, but like basketball evolves, right? Teaching evolves. And for us, we're constantly trying to teach new things, but we can only do that and help the club coaches, but right now we don't have access to control or help any of the school coaches. Different countries operate differently, but we unfortunately don't have any control. Any other questions? As I mentioned before, happy to share our coach manual, happy to share our curriculum, lesson plans, happy to share this presentation, LTAD guide, anything you guys want, right? For me, it's about sharing best practices, right? I learned a lot from you guys from this last day or two. For me, it's really just making sure that, hey, we're all in this because we need to get the passion. We all have that passion of working with kids. So let's make it fun, let's make it the best, and let's make sure the kids have fun. And so that when they come back, they say, hey, I can't wait to come back next week. Thank you.